What if the memories you carry don't actually belong to you? Imagine waking up one day and remembering details about a life you never lived. Names, places, even how you died. Sounds like the beginning of a science fiction movie, right? But for thousands of people around the world, this is a real experience. Welcome to the strange and fascinating world of reincarnation, and what modern psychology and neuroscience are starting to uncover about the science of memory. In this video, we'll explore stories that make you question reality, dive into the science behind memory, and ask a powerful question: could reincarnation be real, or is there another explanation? Let's begin. We'll start with one of the most famous cases of alleged reincarnation, the story of 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐠𝐞𝐿. At just 2 years old, James began having intense nightmares of plane crashes. He would scream about being trapped in a burning aircraft and kept repeating the name James Houston. His parents, initially skeptical, were stunned as their son shared historically accurate details about World War II aircraft, naval ships, and even a pilot named James Houston who died in combat in 1945. 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐠𝐞𝐿 had never been exposed to this information, yet everything he described matched historical records. And he's not alone. Thousands of similar cases have been investigated by researchers like Dr. Ian Stevenson, who spent decades studying children who claim to remember past lives. He meticulously documented more than 2,500 cases, many with supporting evidence like birthmarks matching fatal wounds from alleged previous lives. So what's going on here? Are these just coincidences, or is something deeper at play? Before jumping to conclusions, let's take a closer look at memory itself. Most people think of memory as a file stored somewhere in the brain, but neuroscience tells a different story. Memory is not a fixed recording. It's more like a living story that your brain reconstructs every time you remember something. That means memories can change, fade, or even be invented without you realizing it. Our memories are also shaped by emotion, suggestion, and even our beliefs. In fact, under hypnosis or guided suggestion, people can vividly recall things that never happened. So could these past life memories be vivid mental constructions? Or could memory be something more than just brain chemistry? Carl Jung, one of the most influential psychologists of the 20th century, introduced the idea of the collective unconscious, a shared psychic inheritance that all humans tap into. According to Jung, this is where our dreams, myths, and even instincts come from. So what if some of these so-called reincarnation memories aren't from a past life, but from the deep, universal mind we all share? It's possible that our brains are like antennas, picking up fragments of human history stored in the collective unconscious. That means the memories some people access might not be theirs personally, but echoes of someone else's experience. Now let's shift focus a little and talk science for a moment, because reincarnation isn't just a mystical idea. There's growing evidence that memory and emotion can be passed down through generations, not through stories or family traditions, but through our very biology. This is where epigenetics comes in, the study of how life experiences can leave chemical marks on our genes. These marks don't change your DNA itself, but they do influence which genes get turned on or off. In simple terms, if your ancestors lived through trauma, war, famine, slavery, or deep emotional pain, those experiences may have shaped their bodies in ways that were passed on to you. You might be carrying their anxiety, hypervigilance, or sadness without even knowing it. Studies on the children of Holocaust survivors, for example, show that they often have elevated stress hormones and trauma responses, even if they were born long after the events. Similar patterns show up in the descendants of war refugees, enslaved peoples, or communities hit by deep historical wounds. This doesn't just affect emotions, it can shape beliefs, instincts, and even the sense of who you are. Which opens the door to a fascinating question. What if reincarnation isn't only about souls being reborn, but also about memory itself traveling through bloodlines? Maybe you don't just inherit your grandmother's eyes. Maybe you inherit her unresolved grief, her dreams, her story, and healing yourself might just be healing her too. While science looks for evidence in genes and brain scans, spiritual traditions have been exploring these ideas for thousands of years. In Hinduism and Buddhism, reincarnation is central. The soul returns again and again, each lifetime offering lessons, challenges, and chances to grow. Life isn't seen as a straight line, but as a cycle, a spiritual evolution. But here's the deeper part. These traditions don't just focus on what happens after we die, but on why we're here now. According to them, every person you meet, every situation you face, may be part of a bigger story your soul is trying to complete. Philosophers like Plato also explored this. He believed that we're born with knowledge already inside us, and that learning is really just remembering. Think about that. What if intuition isn't just a feeling, but a faint memory from another life? And this brings up a powerful idea. Maybe you're not starting from zero. Maybe you've been here before. And maybe your struggles today are not a failure, but part of a long, mysterious path toward truth. This spiritual lens invites us to live more mindfully, not just reacting to life, but seeing each moment as meaningful, each challenge as a doorway. It's important to stay grounded. Many scientists and psychologists argue that these cases can be explained by things like suggestion and imagination, confirmation bias, childhood fantasy, misremembered stories told by adults. They also point out that children are highly impressionable and their stories can easily shift with time or questioning. Still, even among skeptics, there's growing interest in the mystery of memory and consciousness. Because the truth is, we don't fully understand how memory works. And we definitely don't understand where consciousness comes from. In recent years, a growing number of scientists and researchers have dared to explore what was once considered fringe, the possibility that consciousness, memory, and even identity might extend beyond the brain and body. Institutions like the University of Virginia's Division of Perceptual Studies have compiled hundreds of documented cases where young children recall incredibly detailed memories of past lives, including names, locations, and events that are later verified. Many of these kids have never been exposed to this information in any obvious way. And in fields like quantum biology and epigenetics, we're beginning to see how memory and information might be stored and transferred in ways we don't yet fully understand. Could the mind tap into something larger than itself? Could there be a collective field of memory, like a psychic internet, that we unconsciously connect to? Even respected physicists like Roger Penrose have proposed that consciousness might be rooted in quantum processes within the brain, blurring the line between science and the mysterious. These studies don't offer final answers, but they open the door. They challenge the old assumption that consciousness ends at the skull, and they dare to ask bigger questions, not just about how we're here, but why. Let's bring all of this down to something very human, something personal. Whether reincarnation is literal, metaphorical, or something we simply don't yet understand, the question isn't just, is it real? It's, what would change in my life if I lived as if it mattered? Here's why this topic isn't just philosophical or scientific. It's deeply practical. Let's break it down. 1. You'd treat life as a long journey, not a one-shot sprint. If you believe this life was one chapter in a much longer story, how would you live differently? You might stress less, you might forgive faster, you might value growth over perfection. You'd understand that failure isn't the end. It's feedback. Every experience, no matter how small, becomes a stepping stone to something bigger. 2. You'd be more compassionate to others and yourself. Think about it. If we've all lived many lives, then we've all been the villain and the hero, the saint and the sinner. You'd stop judging people only by what they are now and start seeing them as who they're becoming. And maybe you'd soften the inner critic too. You'd stop demanding flawlessness and start appreciating the messy beauty of your journey. 3. You'd take your inner life more seriously. Reincarnation or not, your mind carries memory, trauma, intuition, things you can't always explain. You'd start to honor your emotional patterns and gut instincts. Maybe that fear you've never understood, or that place that always feels like home, isn't random. 4. You'd align your choices with your soul, not just society. So much of modern life pushes us towards success, defined by money, speed, and visibility. But if life is about evolution, not just achievement, then peace, kindness, curiosity, and inner alignment become the true measures of progress. And finally, 5. You'd begin to live more consciously, moment by moment. Because if there's one thing all spiritual traditions, modern psychology, and neuroscience agree on, it's this. The present moment is where real change happens. You can't rewrite the past. You don't control the future. But right here, right now, you can choose love over fear, growth over comfort, faith over doubt. In a world where we want answers fast, reincarnation invites us to slow down and sit with mystery. It reminds us that some truths can't be measured in a lab. Not yet, anyway. Maybe we don't have to prove everything to feel its impact. Maybe just asking the question changes how we see ourselves and each other. Are we one life, one person, one story? Or are we many lives, flowing through time like rivers merging into the sea? The science of memory, the stories of reincarnation, and the mystery of consciousness all point to the same thing. There is more to you than meets the eye. And that's not just a comforting thought, it might be a scientific one. Thanks for watching. If this sparked something in you, remember to like, share, and subscribe for more videos that explore the deep questions of psychology, philosophy, and human experience. We'll see you in the next video.